Okay, hi Lena. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Missy.
Hi. So you know that Mother's Day in New Zealand is on the 10th of May, which is 2 or 3 weeks away. And I thought instead of having just one day of celebrating moms, I thought why not make it a whole month, right? So Mother's Day, right? Yeah, we need to always celebrate what we're doing for a whole month, like rather than just one day.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, and treat ourselves. So I also thought of this fun project while we're stuck in lockdown of interviewing, inspiring and empowering moms like you. So thank you so much for thank you so much for letting me interview you and ask you lots of questions. So I think I've known you for about 2 years now. I think the first time I met you was through our pregnancy yoga course at Golden Yogi in Takapuna. And I remembered we had this conversation in front of the bathroom about what you do and what I was doing, and you said that you own this company and you were also doing a PhD, and I was like, whoa, that's super impressive. And I think we talked a little bit about PhD as well, because I finished mine a few years ago and we were talking about how you're finding juggling everything. So I guess my first question is, like, you finished your PhD this year, right? And you finished a PhD while you were basically raising a child and also having this company that you co-own with your husband. And I'm always really curious about this, of how do you actually manage that with your with Manuel, right? Like, you guys are business partners, husband and wife, and parents, like so it sounds like for me that would never work with my own husband. So how do you manage that, and like what do you think has been helpful for you guys as a family?
Well, first of all, your intro is a bit impressive. So I am just a normal person, and I do what I do, and then I got pregnant and I was excited about it, and now I do what I do and I have a baby, or a toddler by now. And in terms of juggling the work, the thesis, the family life, I think it comes down to passion.
Mm.
Um, I love my child, and I'm I'm a homely mom. I am not born to be a mum. Like, I'm not saying I want 10 kids, but I enjoy my role as a mum a lot, and I enjoy watching my son growing up and learning and doing things, and I want to do things perfect, which is a problem. But I want to do things right. So yeah, it's an enjoyable process. So at the same time, I also enjoy my job. I'm passionate about what our business does. We provide health and safety software to businesses, and I'm passionate about having New Zealanders and people overseas to be in safe conditions. And at the same time, with my PhD thesis, it is a topic in the area of environmental management, which I'm super passionate about as well. So I think you have to love your projects, and then it's about finding a balance, and that is super hard. So with your question, in no way am I gonna be the one with the right advice on how to do this correctly. We definitely had weeks here at home, things went crazy, where I had sleepless nights because I didn't make progress on my thesis. So the juggle is real for us as well. And yes, I managed to finish it, but I should have finished so much earlier. I should be doing so much more at work. I should be playing so much more with my son. I face exactly that as well. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to passion and prioritizing, and also having a super supportive partner. If my husband hadn't been on board of this thesis project, obviously we would have ditched it at some stage. If we weren't able to really love our business, and I jump in here and he jumps in there, and then we arrange with daycare or someone to look after our kid, and who picks up. It's a teamwork project. It's a family project. All of those things. So I think there is no one and only advice. I think it's passion and just trying to juggle and keeping it real. And also extending deadlines. I guess if you ask my thesis supervisors, they'd probably put me in the not so high-ranked category of students because they would have liked me to finish a lot earlier, publish a lot more, and be a lot more proactive. But at the end of the day, I had 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
I had to do what I had to do, like work-wise. I also have staff members
Yeah.
where I need to provide a good work environment. And I have that kid, and I have a husband, and probably to some extent a social life. So you have to just pick and choose and be fine with it, and draw that line and go with it without asking anybody all the time.
Right. What do you mean by asking anybody all the time?
If you ask everyone on their opinion all the time, you're going to be pulled in so many directions. And I've done that for far too long, like asking. I guess a lot of mums know that. Should I breastfeed? Should I bottle feed? Should I use this formula? Should I start solids? If you ask all the time, someone will tell you, start solids at 4 months. Oh, no, wait till they're 8 months. Oh, don't do bread, don't do gluten, don't do X, Y, Z. At the end of the day, make a decision and go with it. Adjust your decision. But it's your family, it's your life, it needs to fit in with yourself. And if you quit things or stop things or put them on hold, it's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine. Do it, smile, and keep going. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks.
It's all about trial and error as well, right? And then kind of finding out what works best for your family and not trying to kind of, go for this ideal expectation. It sounds like you have to work a lot with Manuel with trying to juggle and fit all the pieces together. And I'm just curious in terms of, I guess, your relationship with Manuel, like how do you manage that? Like, do you have to put certain boundaries in place? So let's say like, okay, we're not going to talk about work from 9 p.m. onwards, or there's no boundaries. It's kind of just like all converged together.
We don't actually have those rules, and I guess it's sometimes good and sometimes bad. So currently we have a lot of meal times where we talk about work, but we also have a very outspoken child, and he'll just make himself heard against us two adults, and then we snap immediately and go like, no, we need to include him. So he hears us talk about work. We have to discuss certain things. We can't always do it after a certain time of the day. It's also coming up really quickly. And because we are both the owners, we can make quick decisions, but that means we have to talk about it as well. And he will hear it. Yeah. And I think it's not damaging him as long as he still gets attention. And trust me, a toddler knows how to get attention. Like if he throws his bread 3 times on the floor, we definitely know that maybe we should have had a bit more conversation with him here as well, or admire his skills on how to hold the fork or something like that. So I think we try on the weekends to have it relatively work-free. But because we are passionate, we also enjoy the conversations. So it's which is still sometimes the reason why we don't have a good balance, and it's probably quite work intense. But we enjoy it. We enjoy the progress. We enjoy seeing what happens at work. And yet we're trying things like Friday night, we have like a date night or something like that. Or on Saturdays, we do something as a family. The weekends are usually family focused. My husband also plays sports during the summer quite a lot. So the Sunday is definitely our day. But we aren't that strict that if a friend asked us to come over for a birthday, we would say yes to that, because we also like to be social. We also like our friendships. We have certain boundaries, but they are very soft and can be bend in various directions. I think for us, what's important is that at some stage we're like, okay, it's getting too much. We can't handle it anymore. We sit down and we're like, okay, this is what we need to cut back. And that way we regain our family health, which I think at the end of the day is the most important thing. If one of us 3 can't handle it, we need to look at things and adapt.
Yeah. So do you kind of just have informal discussion of, when you're feeling really stressed out and say, hey, like, I really need to focus on my thesis right now rather than work. And then you kind of just negotiate between the two of you.
Yeah. And work-wise, it's also important to obviously let go of things and have other people be involved in certain projects, because that's why you are employing people. We have the mindset that we employ people because they know something in that area that we don't know. So we also need to use that resource and give them responsibility, give them a project. otherwise it would just be Manuel and I, and that way we couldn't grow and provide the service that we are providing. Others know stuff as well. You just have to be brave enough to let go of it. And I was actually just talking to a colleague last week about that, because before I had Tiago, my son, I was involved in a lot of client-facing projects, and I knew, okay, before you give birth, you have to hand over all these clients because you won't be able to respond within half an hour, which I always try, like at least acknowledging that I've seen it and we're looking into it or passing it on. I try and be quick, but I knew once I have a kid, this might not be realistic. It was hard to imagine that because how hard can it be to quickly type an email? But I knew from other people that it might not be that easy. So I handed it all off to other people, and was left with some strategic projects. And even those were sometimes hard to actually get done. And so I had him, a crying baby, that obviously just wanted to sleep on me. And as soon as you put him in his bed, he was wide awake, and you couldn't do anything. And the first few weeks it drove me nuts. Like, I was like, how can it be that I can't make any progress on my to-do list? And I just learned to hand things off and give it to other people. And at the start, I'd be like really probably controlling and ask all the time and check in and provide my feedback on how they should be doing it. But the more time I actually, like the more often I did that, I also realized I actually don't want to do that because I want to be here for my son right now. He's a newborn. He's going to be a newborn once. My role right now is to help him, and the other people will be able to handle their project. It will be fine. And so I learned to let go and give them some freedom, still provide feedback. They would still implement it, but I learned that others have good ideas as well, and it is working without me constantly having to look over their shoulder. They're smart.
That's really hard. Yeah. So it sounds like you were really proactive in preparing for, Tiago's birth in terms of your work. Were there any other things that, looking back, you wish you kind of prepared more, being a first-time mom?
I totally assumed he'd be 2 weeks after the due date, if not later, and he was 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And so I'm German. I'm a to-do list person.
Schedule and on time.
Like, he surprised me completely. My to-do list wasn't done, and I'm driven with my to-do list. If I have 10 things on them, like, I get them done in the time frame that I want to. All it takes is work really hard, work really long, like just get it done. And if you work till midnight, you'll get it done.
Yeah.
I had him, and you can't get it done. I seriously managed to turn on the washing and not take it out. And my husband came home from work, and I was embarrassed. Like, how can it be that I'm still sitting here in the same spot, turned on a washing, didn't do the dishes, didn't do all the other things, didn't hang up the washing? How hard can it be to get that done? But that's just a reality. And I hear that from so many other moms. Now it makes me laugh, I think I learned to let go, and I learned to be patient. I used to be, patience was probably my biggest weakness. And now I'm sitting there days, I'm sitting there nights, if he wakes up, if it takes an hour, if it takes 2 hours. Not that I enjoy it, but I'm not losing it. Like, I'm just sitting there thinking, he's actually cute. He probably needs me right now. Okay, well, let's just do this. Let's see with all the other things tomorrow. We'll handle it. Or I'll need to call someone, or we'll need to reschedule, or there's a way, but let's just stay calm right now. And I think that's your approach as well, because I learned a lot from you in that area too. If you manage to stay calm, your kid can actually adopt that as well, or feels the calmness and can calm down as well.
Yeah.
Because in the first few weeks, I was holding him, being on my laptop with the other arm, wondering why he wouldn't calm down, why he wouldn't fall asleep. I was holding him, but if you're constantly doing two things at once, it might not work.
Yeah, and they can totally sense that in terms of your presence and attention. Like, they're incredibly attuned to whether you are present with them, especially with my kids right now, Ari and Lexi. As soon as I'm kind of on the phone or whatever, they're just like, they totally know that mom is not really right there, right? And incredibly attentive to that. So it sounds like you have gone through a big journey in terms of letting go, right?
Yes.
Out of letting go. Right. What were some of the other kind of unexpected things that you learned about yourself, or surprising things that you learned about yourself now that you're a mom?
Probably the patience thing, definitely the letting go. And it's probably, I would hope, made me a better person. And the other things, or one of the other things, is that you make a decision and it's absolutely fine to do the opposite the next day. I would never ever judge anybody on their approach. And I mentioned earlier, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, solids, what type of nappies, sleep, all these kind of things. I've gone through so many change my mind processes. I think that's absolutely fine. Like, go with your flow and do what fits in with your family. So I do like to read up on things. I do like to hear what others are doing. But at the end of the day, I try and take what works for us and adapt it. So we try things out as well. And after 4 or 5 days, nights, whatever we're doing, it doesn't work. And then we're kind of sitting down and going like, okay, it might not work because of this. We'll have to do it differently. And I think that's fine. And you can't beat yourself up over those kind of things. I think there's a lot of social pressure, and I'm only just realizing that, like, since Tiago turned 1 and I had other friends that are pregnant, giving birth, I was actually able to express the social pressure that I was feeling. Not that anybody tries to put pressure on you on purpose, but it's basically friends that don't have babies. And I know that once Tiago was 8 months and my girls would say, oh, should we go to the movies? And I'd be like, 6 o'clock doesn't really work that well, because I feed him to sleep, and sure, Manuel, my husband, can put him to bed, but I know it's going to be harder. I know Tiago's going to cry. I know Manuel's not going to enjoy it, because obviously Tiago cries. I know if I do it, it takes 25 minutes and everyone's asleep and happy and calm, and a calm evening means a calm night, which means a relaxed morning and a better day. And so sure, I wanted to go to the movies, but I said no for the sake of the family life. And I felt like they're gonna roll their eyes at me and go like, how can someone with an 8-month-old baby, the husband should totally be able to step in? No one said that to me, but I think they think that because I think I thought that. And that's the social pressure that I'm feeling. Bedtime things, like, how come it takes so long for them to get them to bed? Like, just let them cry. Well, we didn't feel like that, so we're not doing it. But if I then sit there with them, it takes half an hour to get them to sleep, and I guess sit in the lounge with my husband and, you know, keep talking. I'm constantly thinking, I should be out there. They're probably rolling their eyes. They're probably laughing at me. They probably, you know, I have all these other ideas, and I'm really soft and not teaching him properly. But it's hard to let go of that. So currently I'm at a stage where I do what I want to do with the consciousness that I think they're talking about me, but I can handle that fact. Maybe they aren't even talking about me.
Most likely not.
But
that really reminded me. So before I had kids, my sister, my older sister, she's got 3 kids. And I still remember this, that Brian and I had this conversation, because every time we have to have a family dinner when my parents come over from overseas, and, you know, family dinner is a really big thing in our family. It always has to be at 5 o'clock or 5:30, right? Because my sister has 3 kids. Their bedtime is at 7. And prior to having kids, Brian and I are always like, I don't get it. Like, why do we have dinner so early? Like, we have dinner this early. You know, like, obviously, you know, we're fine because we just wanted to have dinner with them. But I still remember to this day that we had the conversation. We're just like, why do we need to have like such an early family dinner? But now we have kids who are like, we totally get it. And it's just like that, right? Like, you don't really understand until you become a mom yourself, or like, you know, and just letting go of that expectation, or just maybe there's actually no one really thinking about that or talking about you like that, right? But I guess it's the internal monologue that you have in your head, which I feel like that's why I find motherhood so hard, is that, you know, just in terms of the really harsh critical thoughts I have about myself. And like you said about, you know, you're finding that patience is not your greatest virtue, right? And being a mom really tests that, right? And Yeah, and I find that as well in terms of being a mom, is that it really magnify, or suddenly I realize that I'm not as patient as I thought I was, or I'm not as kind and as caring, because, you know, I get really grumpy and irritable, and there's a limit to how patient I get right before I just snap. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So were there any other things that you found surprising about yourself now that, you know, you've had Tiago for about 19 months now?
I think it tests you, and it tests your relationship,
Yeah.
because I might already be in a different stage to mine or to my husband, because I read these books and then I figured out 7 o'clock has to be the bedtime, and if it's 7:30, then the sleep starts later, and then it's these sleep rhythms that they have, and then that means they wake up actually earlier and not
Right.
later. And
Yeah.
so we would be, like you say, at a family event. It's a birthday and the guy hasn't unpacked the presents yet, and I'm thinking this is gonna get to my bedtime here, or my son's bedtime, and at some stage I make eye contact with my husband, but because he isn't as in tune yet with the routine that I suddenly find so important because
Yeah.
he's at work, I'm getting impatient and think he needs to speak up that we need to leave. And he doesn't see the drama because we could just stay another half an hour till the presents and the cake is done. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, no, we can't. And so obviously I get impatient and I get agitated. And then in the car, it'd be like, why are we doing this? And now I've got this overtired kid and I'm the one at night, da da da. And then he's like, can you just calm down? It's just half an hour. And that can lead to conflict as well.
Yeah.
And I think you need to, we've been together for a long time, 11 years this year. So we are used to being together as a couple,
Yeah.
but that leads to new conflicts, that leads to new situations, and you need to have gone through a few of those to actually pick up what happens there and the communication and why this has happened. So I learned that sometimes I'm thinking things, take them for granted and as knowledge that my husband should have as well. But how should he? Because I have been spending the day at home with Tiago and I have been reading these books and theories, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
So it's this whole catch up communication and agreeing on an approach
Yeah.
problem as well. So it's a partnership challenge as well, I think.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think it's so important for couples to really prepare for the birth of a baby. I think.
How do you prepare?
Sorry?
How do you prepare?
Well, I know I think it's a hindsight bias thing, but I guess in terms of, you know, in antenatal classes, they always just talk about, you know, preparing for the birth, but they don't talk about
Yeah.
preparing emotionally and psychologically as a couple in terms of how do we make sure we have time for each other, how do
Yeah.
we get support in place, so then it's not just the two of us. But again, that's me speaking from hindsight, because I found that having our girls have completely really tested our relationship. And same
Yeah.
with you, we've been together for 11 years. We've been married 9 years, and never forgotten like a wedding anniversary until the past 2 years. So forgot about our wedding anniversary last year. Luckily, my in-laws reminded us and they were in Auckland at the time. So they said, you know, we'll babysit, you guys go out. And then funnily enough, wedding anniversary was last week again, and got an email from my father-in-law saying, hey, just want to say congrats, like you guys been married for so long, and like what are you gonna do to celebrate? And both Brian and I were like, what wedding anniversary? We totally forgot. So
But Brian must have forgotten as well.
Yeah, both of us forgotten. It's locked down, and it's like just the days have blurred together. But I think that also reflected, I guess, where we are in our relationship, is that our focus is so much on the kids and just doing just survival mode rather than, hey, let's kind of, you know, focus on the relationship. And I think that's where obviously we need to work on it. But I find that a lot of, you know, couples, they do break up after they have their kids, which is really sad, but it's the, you know, statistics in New Zealand. And I think part of that is, not, like you said, like not having that clear communication, maybe different expectations, and just like, you know, feel like we're kind of this going separate ways because the common
Just
thing is
survival mode.
just survival mode. So Are there any things that you guys do to kind of, make sure that you're not just on that survival mode, especially, if it gets too much with business and everything else that's going on?
You mentioned that it might be a challenge that we work together, and I would have thought that as well. 11 years ago, I would have never thought it's a good idea to even be in the same industry as your partner. We are in the same business and in similar roles, and I actually enjoy it, and I hope he does as well. But for us, it is actually a chance. At work, we are work and not coupling around, but we can have a lunch date, and we can go out for lunch, and that can be a date, and Tiago's at daycare. So we make those 45 minutes, sometimes 60 minutes time slots available in our days for those kind of things. I find it hard to do it like in the evenings at this stage, but it will come the older the kid gets, obviously. But that's something we do, and it's not always easy, but we are trying to be also firm with meetings we need to have meetings, and it's easy for our staff member to just put something else in our calendars because they see that it's our meeting. But if we don't have it in that time while Tiago's at daycare, we have to do it in the evenings, and
Right.
we're just learning to be stricter. I think it's about setting boundaries, and I might have told you about the book that I read recently. It's really boundaries, and other people around you learn that you are setting those, so they might be surprised at first,
right,
but you set them in a nice way, and once you do it a few times, everyone gets used to it. Like, no, you can't put something else in those meeting schedules when I have a meeting with Manuel. Like, it won't work. I won't do what you're putting in there for me.
right.
Yeah, it's about being clear and having boundaries. I think that's important.
And that's super important, like you said. Like, if you don't do that work meeting with Manuel during the day, then it'll take time in the evening when that could be time for you guys as a couple, right?
Sleep.
Or sleep, exactly. Sleep, yeah. So in terms of that, do you think that has changed a lot since Tiago is born? So like before you had a baby, if someone put a meeting invite on that meeting slot between you and Manuel, were you like, oh yeah, sure?
Fine. We are always worried that we hurt someone in saying no. I think we're learning to say no, but explain it. And this is the format or the way to set some boundaries without being rude. And don't get me wrong, if someone says, look, this is an interview with someone, they can only do that time, we're still flexible, and we are still able to do something in the evening here and there. But we can't do it every night. We can't do it the entire weekend, because now Tiago only has one sleep. Like, we need to play with him, we need to interact with him, we need to have that family time. And for me, growing up, family time was their thing. If you know the book of the 5 love languages, quality time is mine, like super obviously. That's if that tank doesn't get filled, I'm unhappy, I'm grumpy, I'm snappy, probably not great to hang out with. But if Manuel says, hey, let's go to the park, hey, let's go to the market, let's do this and that, then I'm happy. And I think it's important to acknowledge those things that fill up your happiness tank.
Yeah, totally. And what other things that you do for self-care? Because you mentioned that you need quality time, to fill up that love tank. But what about for you as a mom, when you're having a hard day with Tiago or Manuel, what do you do in terms of your self-care routine?
It won't be the perfect response right now.
Not asking for a perfect response.
Yeah, this is gonna be super honest, and I hope a lot of moms that listen to that do better. I'm able to squeeze in a lot. I'm able to do stuff that makes me happy in terms of what I achieve at work, what I do with Tiago, what I do socially. I even manage to exercise. That's something I enjoy in the mornings. I do that regularly. It's mixed of like some more intense exercise, like a gym class or a run, and then mix it up with yoga. So those kind of things are manageable for me to squeeze in. Where I'm not great is sleep. I sacrifice all these things for sleep. So it's not ideal. But basically, if I have time, 20 minutes to read a book or to do some yoga, that fills me up again, that makes me happy, or the quality time with my husband, or every now and then a chat with a friend, a Skype with family in Germany. Seeing the girls, going to movies, that's a treat now, because it's just not easily available for me.
Yeah, definitely. And again, those are things that are quality time with people that really fill you up. And then you talk about like passion. So doing things that you're passionate about, like, you know, your work and your PhD, that also filled you up. Obviously it took some time and energy, but at least, you know, it does fill you up in terms of that, you know, capacity to be a better mom.
To be honest, the PhD at the end was hard. I think a lot of people go through that stage. At the end, you just want to get it done. It's a project I was passionate about, definitely, because it is environmental management. But at the end of the day, it is also sitting down, getting it written up in a certain way, making sure you tick the boxes. So it's tough. And especially when I had Thiago, it was really hard to make time for it. Because you're always, that time's always competing for time for work, where basically I feel like I'm making money, or time for my family, my husband, my son. So that was really hard to squeeze in, and probably not the first priority, which made it so hard to also finish it at that stage. I probably should have just done it while I was pregnant, but didn't manage.
It's still super impressive. Like, I just can't imagine doing that with a baby. Because when I did my PhD, that's all I had to do was just my PhD for 3 years. So it was a hard slog, but there was really nothing else for me to kind of prioritize. So I wouldn't know how I would do it.
It ends up on your plate and you just do it. And you would have done it as well. You have twins, you have a business, you go to work, you've also finished a PhD. Like, if someone puts it on your plate, you do it. And you still have the chance to quit. But I had gone that far that I thought, I want to get it to a point where at least I try and submit. So, you know, it's the weighing up the efforts that you've already put in it compared to what you still have to do it. So you might as well just give it a go.
And you did it. You passed.
Because otherwise you can stop. You can obviously stop. Like, no one blames you if you do that, but you never know if you would have made it. So at least I thought, okay, let's get it into a format where I feel like it can be submitted and see what happens. See what the feedback is.
And you pass.
It's still a little bit of an unbelievable scenario. Like, actually just last weekend, 2 days ago, I was having a lunch nap and I said to my husband, I can't believe I don't actually have to sit there and write my thesis right now. Like, I can actually lie here without feeling bad.
You can just totally rest, right? And having a lunch nap is I feel like such a luxurious thing. I still do. Like, I still have a nap. Like, when the kids nap, I nap for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's how I
generally stay for the whole time. Like, go for it.
If I nap for longer than 20 minutes, then it just affects my evening. So then I can't go to sleep that easily. So I always try to just like do a 20-minute nap. But seriously, that's one thing that really keeps me going, especially in the afternoons with toddlers. So
but just a lie down with a book or like an audio book or something like that. Definitely agree.
It's so luxurious. So speaking of Mother's Day, what would you like for Mother's Day?
Oh, I guess you're putting me on the spot with that one. I haven't thought about it. I just know last year was my first Mother's Day and I got really excited about it, and I reminded my husband. And we had a nice family day, I think, at the beach. We went for a walk, and he framed a really nice photo of Thiago and I, which I actually see right now. It's hanging over there. And that was perfect. He wrote a card on Thiago's behalf as well, and we had breakfast, I guess. So this time, I think it's really family time. It does fill up my tank a lot to hang out with these two guys.
Oh, that's really sweet. And what would you like to say to your mom on Mother's Day?
Oh my God, I love my mom to bits, and we have a really good relationship. But since having my own kid, I can empathize with the struggles and the sacrifices even more. So I I admire the way that she's brought us up and what she's done for us. And my parents are together, and they both brought us up. But I live in Germany, and they let us kids travel. Like, I love to travel. I did every school exchange there was after school, and when I finished, I went here to South America. My parents hadn't been to South America, but they allowed me to go, and I obviously had to use some of my hard-earned pocket money as well, but they supported me financially, they supported me emotionally, and it's that emotional support that gave me so much security to try out adventures that probably formed me the way I am today. And it also allowed me to go to New Zealand. Without their help, I wouldn't have come here and met Manuel and started my family here. And I admire particularly that, because I know my mum would much rather have me live not next door, but maybe in the same city. So yes, they support me with whatever I need, and it might not actually be in their advantage. And I think that's a pretty strong move. So I feel for them, and I admire it, and I'm thankful for what they do for us. Definitely.
Yeah, just the depth of the sacrifices they've made, and how they I guess what you're saying is like they kind of put your wish and desire ahead of what they would like, right? So they probably want you to be really close so they can spend time with you in Tiago, but they know that you're happy in New Zealand and that's where your home is. So yeah. And so how would you like to be remembered by Tiago as a mom?
That's a tough question as well. Probably a caring mom that supports him with whatever he needs. But I also think it's fine for him to realize that I set boundaries. So I try and understand him in a lot of situations. But you mentioned earlier that you can be irritable or on edge, and so can I. Definitely today at dinner time, I told him clearly that destroying food on the floor needs to stop right now, because I can't stand it today. And I think it is fine for them to see that we are humans and not just mum machines that are here to serve them. We have emotions, the dads have emotions, their friends have emotions. So why would they have to learn it for the first time when they are out in real life and hurt someone and then have a problem based on that? I think they can see that we do everything for them, or a lot for them, that we support them, but at the same time that we set boundaries, because we are humans as well, and they need to respect that and learn that from the start, I find. So I think it's a fine line. I would always say that my parents were loving and supportive. They did everything for me. Like, if I woke up late at night and I remember that I forgot to do this assignment, my dad would sit there and do it with me. He wouldn't basically let me freak out and go to school without it to teach me to remember better or something. He would always be there for me, and we get through it together. But at the same time, he'd be strict. Like, if I was late, like coming home from a party and I had to be home at a certain time and I wasn't, that was a problem. So I think that I like this fine line of parenting, but being supportive. And I think that's what I would like to represent for Tiago as well.
Yeah, you're Tiago's mom, not his friend, right?
Yeah. I don't mind listening to his first love story dramas either, but yeah, but I'm the parent. I'm the one that needs to teach him boundaries as well.
Yeah, that's super important.
And you probably agree that is not fun and that is not easy.
No, I think that's the hard part of parenting, right? I think it's so easy to just give in and to just kind of always wanting to make them happy, because it's, you love them, you want to see them happy, but at the same time, that's not necessarily the right thing or the best thing for them. And part of being, I guess a kid is always testing boundaries and seeing what you can get away with, right? They don't know any different until they were guided to do otherwise. So, and that's part of our job, is to really guide them, right?
Definitely. I think it gives them security as well to have boundaries. If they can constantly choose from everything, I think they're too small to handle that choice. It is our job to pre-choose to make decisions for them already, and then give them certain options that we are fine with. It's also fine for them, like it's nice to go for a walk and take your time. I did that today, and I let him look at like all the flowers and whatever he saw, but also it is fine to be in a rush in the morning and have to get out of the house and have to get to daycare and be on time at work. I think they need to learn that as well, because the world doesn't evolve around them only. Like, they are important, they are special, they don't know everything. We need to show that we understand that, but there are other people as well. Amongst those other people, their parents. So it's just life.
Yeah, it's a juggling act for everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for your time, Lena. And I really appreciate all your raw honesty about motherhood, and especially with your relationship with Manuel and how you've, managed to basically do everything, which is still very impressive. But yeah, I really appreciate our conversation, because what I think I appreciate, not just with you, but with our baby group, is that we can be honest with each other and just say, look, I'm having a really crappy day, and everyone's just so non-judgmental and supportive, and be like, oh yeah, it sounds like really hard. And I think it's how we can, really support each other, is to just have this raw, honest conversation about, the good stuff about motherhood, but also the hard stuff, which I think is important for us to talk about, right? Like, I think we just say it's all roses and just everything is all great. That's where people feel like they can't be honest about their feelings, and they have high expectations of what motherhood is like, and then that's when reality hits.
I think I absolutely agree. It's that honesty that is important, because for a long time I thought my kid is the worst sleeper on the planet, and I should be, and he should be, and why aren't we? And at some stage I started talking about it, and I figured out, well, this friend's kid doesn't sleep like that, and this friend's kid doesn't. And so others might, which is great for them. I also assume they have other problems, maybe in areas where we have it easy, but it is good to talk about it, because suddenly you don't feel like your kid's the worst sleeper, or you're doing it wrong with whatever bedtime routine or whatever you're trying to achieve. Like, sleep is definitely the topic for us. But it's good to share that and not feel like you're failing. I think that helps. This whole mum shaming really needs to stop, because our job is not easy. Our role is not easy. And it's so much nicer to have a supportive group around you than a group where you feel like you can't say what your issue is, and where you can't celebrate your achievements either, because it is nice if someone else can still say to me, oh, my baby's sleeping through at 8 weeks. That's fantastic for them. My son wasn't doing that. But it's nice to be able to share that stuff and be there for each other.
Yeah, and thank you for being there for me as well. I really appreciate all the support that you have given.
Likewise. I hope anyone listening to this feels like that no one has the perfect journey, and it is a learning curve for everybody. And I guess if I had another child, it would be completely different. I might be doing things differently. The ups and downs might be similar or not, but it can't be completely perfect. It's just a journey, and it's so important to just adjust to it, talk about it, and find solutions in that moment that work.
Yeah, totally. And as a way to say thank you, I will be dropping this off to you contactless, because you're still in my local area.
Oh my God, this is coffee, is it?
Yeah, from the Generosity Cafe, which I know you like. They're still open, and they're still roasting their coffee beans and delivering nationwide. And I do love their coffee. Like, it smells so good. And I know you love coffee, so.
This is perfect timing. This morning I made coffee, and I said to Manuel, oh my God, this pack is going towards the end, and it's really delicious coffee. And, it's rather dramatic right now.
Okay. Coffee is important, so I will get this to you tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you so much, Missy. You didn't have to do that. I enjoyed the conversation a lot. I really did.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being part of it. Bye, Lena.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Missy. Bye. And say hi to Brian. The dads do a good job as well.
Bye, Lena.